Hi everybody, Dr. Brett Van Norman here, Advanced Pain Centers in Singapore. If you've clicked on this, it's either probably one of two things. One is that you don't know what Syndrome X is, and the second is that you want to know if you have some of these risk factors for this Syndrome X. Syndrome X is also known as Metabolic Syndrome. So Metabolic Syndrome is defined by 5 different risk factors, and this was identified in 2005 from the National Cholesterol Education Program. And I'm going to go through these 5 risk factors. And what you're going to find is that you may have 1, you may have 3, you may have 5. And I don't want you to panic because we will be going through things that you can do for these and really helping all at one time. So number one risk factor has to do with abdominal obesity. So in males, this is a 40-inch waist or greater. That's about 100 centimeters. Females, 35-inch or about 90 centimeters. Number 2 has to do with low HDL levels. So this is also known as the good cholesterol level, or the good cholesterol. And if that's low, and in males it's lower than 40, females lower than 50, or you're taking a medication for it. So with some of these, it's going to be, I've had people tell me all the time, well, no, my levels are normal, but if you're taking a medication for it, that's the reason it's at a normal level, at least temporarily, is the medication is forcing it there. So again, if your HDL levels are low, or you're on a medication for this, for cholesterol, basically a statin, if you're on that, then this also is a risk factor. Number 3, this has to do with high triglyceride. This is the level of 150 milligrams per deciliter. And what you're going to notice with this and some of these other numbers I'm giving you, they're on the cusp of normal. They're on the high end, really, of normal. So really borderline type of conditions. Really, if you're right there, you're playing with fire. These are risk factors. So that's number 3. Number 4 has to do with your blood pressure. We're going to talk about the systolic, which is about 130 or greater, is a risk factor, and that's the high number. That's the top number. And the diastolic is 85 or greater. That's the lower number. So this is another risk factor. Or you're taking a medication for blood pressure. Once again, if the blood pressure is the reason for your normal reading, this is not normal. Okay. And number 5 has to do with blood glucose levels, fasting blood glucose levels. So if your fasting blood glucose is 100 milligrams per deciliter or higher, this is also a risk factor, and that's borderline diabetes, which is something that's a topic near and dear to my heart, which you'll see a lot of different videos on. So these are the 5 different risk factors for this metabolic syndrome. If you have 3 already, you have this. And the truth is that it's about 1/3 of the population has this metabolic syndrome. 1/3 of the US and Singapore is quite similar to that. In fact, it's getting to be worldwide. It's getting quite similar in our eating habits and the type of foods that have, for example, high sugars or high carbohydrates. It's now getting all over the world. So 1/3 of the population has this metabolic syndrome. And really it ties down to what we refer to as an X factor. What is this X factor that is maybe responsible for all of this happening? And it has to do with something called hyperinsulinemia. Now, this is just means that you have too much insulin in your blood. This is one of the precursors to diabetes. And it first starts with something called insulin resistance. This means that we have so much sugar coming in to our bodies that it just does not know what to do with it. The body keeps pumping out more and more insulin. And this leads to the certain cells not being responsive to this insulin, which then creates more insulin in the blood, which leads to more fat storage. Obesity, all certain risk factors that go, those 5 risk factors, this is the reason for it. This is one of the precursors for all of those things happening. So I want you to understand, first of all, in this video, if you have 3 of 5 of these, first of all, if you have any, we should do something about it. But 3 of 5 or more, then we need to start working on things, which we will talk about, what you can do yourself at home. But the X factor here is that hyperinsulin in the blood. I need you to be aware of this. It has a lot to do with how much sugar you're eating. If you like this, if this was helpful, please subscribe. Consider subscribing to our channel. If you're looking at this on Facebook, please like us. Comment in the comments below if it was helpful. If there's anything you want to learn more about, more videos on related to this, let me know and I'll see what I can do for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.